So today we're going to be going over 10 of my favorite fragrance discoveries of this year that isn't new releases. So I already did a video on my favorite new fragrance releases of 2021. You can watch that one if you're interested. But I wanted to highlight some of the other fragrances that I picked up this year that I really ended up enjoying that obviously weren't put out this year. Because I have to admit, I'm pretty pleased with myself here. I picked up a few fragrances that I've been putting off for a long time. I've also made a few discoveries. Some fragrances that I didn't even really know were a thing. Ended up picking them up and they turned out to be really good. So we got a lot to cover here in this one. Let's run through these. These will all be linked down below to discounters. You can check them out if you're interested. Let's get into it. First up, we have No Limits by Phillipp Plein. So this is one of those fragrances that normally I would just not even give the time of day to, and that's because of the presentation. I mean, come on, I think we can all agree that this is a little bit gaudy. But then you look it up online and you see the perfumer behind this one is Alberto Marias, and you also see the relatively extensive note breakdown. This one has leather, dark chocolate, and vanilla, just to name a few of those notes. There's many more, but those are the ones that I pick up on the most. And I have to say, this is very impressive. It really is. Nice leathery, chocolatey, smooth, creamy vanilla scent. It is so sexy. It is so masculine. This is very satisfying. This is the type of fragrance that kind of appeals to the enthusiast side of things, believe it or not. Yes, even though it does have a very tacky bottle, something that, you know, the non-fragrance enthusiasts would probably appreciate more. You know, kind of goes down the Paco Rabanne style of marketing with their loud, obnoxious bottles. This kind of goes down that way, and typically those fragrances appeal to the masses. But this one, it's kind of combining, you know, a very loud presentation, but then a fragrance that is more unique than you would expect. Because let's be real, when you see a bottle like this, you expect a cookie cutter basic fragrance, but that is not what this one is. It's very smooth, it's very high quality, very impressive stuff here. And again, when you have a master perfumer behind something like this, you know it's going to turn out really good. Amazing stuff. Super happy with it. So this next one is a fragrance that I discovered pretty much on my own. You know, some of these other ones you hear talked about here and there, but this one is one that I just stumbled across on accident, basically, and that is Azzaro Visit. You guys have heard all about it. Done a full review, featured in a few top 10s and stuff like that, so there's plenty of information on my channel about this one now if you want to dive in further. Cedarwood, pink pepper, and incense are a couple of the notes here. It's a very woody, spicy, masculine fragrance. It's more your older school, traditional style men's fragrance versus, you know, being a newer bubblegummy sweet scent. Now this is nowhere close to being a new release. I think it came out in 2003, so yeah, it's been out for a while. You know, it just didn't really get a ton of hype, at least it's not talked about these days anyway. Maybe it got hyped up when it first came out back then, but I don't see anything about it now. But I have to say, it is really, really impressive stuff. If you're into woody, masculine, spicy fragrances, this is going to be for you. It smells fantastic. And another thing that I really enjoy about this one is the price point. I believe $24, $25 is typically where this one falls on FragranceNet. If you're after a cheapie for the fall and winter time, this one right here needs to be at the top of your list. Absolutely incredible. Next up, we have Ferragamo Oud. It's kind of got an interesting shape to this one, but it is kind of a cool little touch. Leather, rum, tobacco, and gaiac wood. It's another warm, spicy, kind of a oud-based fragrance. Obviously, it's in the name, but don't let that scare you away. It's not too strong of an oud. It's relatively subdued here. You get the booziness, you get the sweetness from this one. Nice smoky woods in here, very masculine as well. Not your typical designer release. And also, it's from Ferragamo, which typically they have fragrances in the more affordable price range. This one is a bit more expensive, given that it is their oud fragrance. It's around $50, which still isn't bad, but most fragrances from this brand are usually in the $20 to $30, maybe $40 range. I think this one's really pleasant, really solid. You know, if you want something different, if you want maybe a bit of a challenge, but you don't want to spend a bunch of money on, you know, a full-on oud fragrance, you maybe just want to dabble with a note a little bit to get started, check out Ferragamo Oud. Of course, all the niche hardcore oud people are going to be scratching their heads at this and shaking their heads rather because obviously this is not going to be using real oud, right? It's going to be a synthetic oud, of course, but it helps kind of ease you into that category if you're after that. And you don't want to spend like $100 on a little 2 ml decant. And let's be real, I'm sure most of those hardcore oud people out there who would hate on fragrances like this probably don't even own full bottles of those scents. They probably just have their little 2 ml decants, and they think they're better than everyone else. Don't listen to them. We do have a niche fragrance up next. This one is Ormond Jane Montabaco Verano. Grapefruit, suede, and tobacco. So it's a nice note breakdown. You know, grapefruit, tobacco, you know, kind of like a Dolce & Gabbana The One type of thing here, but trust me, this does not smell anything like Dolce & Gabbana The One. I just figured I would throw that out there because I know people will probably see that comparison and then automatically assume maybe it smells like that. It doesn't. It's leathery, it's citrusy, it's kind of woody. It has a little bit of a smokiness. It's really a quite unique scent. It's a bit different. It's interesting. You know, it's combining some notes that you normally don't see combined, but you also get a good amount of each one. So it's a nice little balance here. What I like about this one here is it's going to be very wearable. You know, you can pull it off in the spring, summer, fall, winter if you wanted to. I would say it's going to be better for more fair weather, warmer weather. When it gets super, super cold outside, you may want to choose something different, but you could wear it if you wanted to. It's ultimately going to be very mass-pleasing, very approachable, very easy to pick up and wear. If you are kind of a beginner to niche, you want to get into something that is going to have niche quality from a niche brand with, you know, a relatively nice presentation here. This is one to check out. Vince Camuto Terra Extreme. Vanilla, rum, and tonka bean are a few of the main notes. This is a really cool fragrance all around. Everything from the presentation, having this kind of faux leather wrap around it, even on the cap as well. Gives it a nice texture, gives it a cool look. To the scent itself being a little bit sweet, kind of boozy, a little bit powdery. Very inviting, very warm. Definitely not going to be something super groundbreaking and super unique, but it's a nice little change, and typically fragrances in this price range do trend on the fresher side, so it is cool to get something that is more affordable, that does have kind of a warm, boozy, sweet approach. Obviously, when you put this up against some of the top boozy, sweet fragrances for men, both designer and niche, that are of higher quality, it's not going to have near the amount of depth. But for the price, it is really solid. It's another great budget scent if you're not really wanting to break the bank and you want something maybe a little bit different. It is a nice scent on a budget if you want something great for cold weather. So this one here, I did pick up this year, 2021, but the DNA itself I have been familiar with for a long time. From Rasasi, this one is Hawas. This one has watery notes, plum, bergamot, ambergris, lavender, you know, all of those standard notes. This is where Invictus Aqua started. And so I'm very familiar with that scent, obviously. Yeah, I love Invictus Aqua. I picked up the 2016 first. I had no idea this existed until it got discontinued and then people were talking about it. At the time, I had enough Invictus Aqua where I didn't pick it up. And it wasn't until, again, this year that I finally decided to go ahead and pull the trigger on a bottle. And I'm really glad I did. You know, I have to say, this is really, really, really nice. Far better than the 2018 version of Invictus Aqua. Like, it's no comparison for me. And now that I have this, instead of having to burn through my 2016 bottles, which are rare nowadays, I'm going to be wearing this one a lot more. The plum gives it a very unique twist. It's fruity, it's fresh, it's watery. Very fun, very playful, very sexy. This DNA is just a knockout. I love this stuff. Great for the summertime, summer activities, fun in the sun. One that I can't wait to wear even more next summer. So this next fragrance is one that is also really good. And I wish I would have picked this one up earlier on in the year so I could have worn it more. I got this one like maybe a month or two ago from Guerlain. This one is IDL Cool. So this essentially is their replacement of IDL Cologne. So this one is essentially their replacement of the Cologne flanker, which they did unfortunately discontinue. That one was doing really well, at least in the community. I mean, it was getting talked about almost more than the EDP, and they cut it off. This one has mint, almond, and watery notes. It is really, really pleasant. You know, I almost hate to say it, but I almost do like it more than the Cologne. So I guess I can't be too upset that they discontinued that one. I really do. You know, this one does have a minty green freshness about it that the Cologne doesn't have. But yet it is still a fresher, brighter approach on the original DNA because you still do get that almond in here. This smells great. Love it. I sprayed it on before I started the video here, or sprayed it up in the air rather, just to smell it. This is one of those fragrances where I could pick it up and smell it almost every day and not get tired of it. Very satisfying, very refreshing. They really did nail that green mintiness down to a T. It's not too overpowering. It's just enough to make it stand out. This stuff is great. It's gonna shine in the springtime for sure. Spring, early summer, that sort of thing. You know, you could wear it when it's really hot outside, but I think there are better options ultimately. But when the weather is nice and mild, things are coming back to life after a long, cold winter time, this here is gonna be so refreshing, and I can't wait. So this is definitely not a new fragrance either. Up next, we have Angel Men by Mugler. We have caramel, coffee, patchouli, and vanilla. There's a lot of other notes in this one as well, relatively extensive, but that's really all you need to know. It's coffee leaning, nice roasted coffee note, caramel sweetness. The patchouli gives off this chocolatey smell. It is really, really unique. And this is one of those incredibly divisive fragrances. You don't get a whole lot of in between. You have people who say this smells terrible and they hate it and they don't want anything to do with it, and they wish they could throw this rubber bottle at the wall and break it, but it wouldn't break. And then you have people on the other end of the spectrum, kind of where I fall, where I think this is just epic. Did I really just say epic out loud on a video? Yeah, I think it's great. Really nice stuff. It's a more affordable version of Kilian Intoxicated, coffee-based scent. Still some differences between the two, but this one is definitely a lot more obtainable. If you like coffee, if you like chocolate, if you like vanilla, get on this stuff. It is really quite unique given the fact that it is a designer scent that is relatively affordable. Second to last fragrance, we have Polo Supreme Leather. So it has leather, it has tonka bean, it has honey. There's one or two other notes, but that's essentially really about all you get, at least that the brand gives us for this one, but it's really all you need to know. It's a leather fragrance, right? No surprise there. Now, it's not, you know, a Tuscan leather, so it's relatively wearable, as Tuscan leather is not. It doesn't smell like ombre leather either. I'm throwing those two out there because they're kind of two of the more popular leather-based fragrances. It doesn't smell like those, so it's not going to be redundant. To me, this really kind of stands on its own for a leather scent. But it does smell like it is a Polo fragrance. And so what I mean by that is it does have a lot of mass appeal. To some, it would be kind of dumbed down. You know, the leather note is not too strong or in your face. Even when you compare it to a Phillipp Plein No Limits leather fragrance, this one is much more strong and, you know, leathery to that extent. This one is not. It's a designer leather scent that is not a Tom Ford. So Tom Ford doesn't give a crap what people think about their fragrances. Polo does, right? They do care, right? They have an image they want to represent, and they don't want to put out something that's going to be off-putting. So my whole point behind saying that is that this is a more wearable leather fragrance, very easy to get into, one that would be less likely to offend yourself or other people around you, but it is still very sexy, very wearable. Last up for this one, we have Aventus Cologne by Creed. So I did get this one this year. I did not buy it when it first came out. Creed actually sent me a carded sample, and I did a first impressions, and I didn't really care for it off the bat. I never heard from Creed again. I never got the 10th anniversary or never got samples of anything else. Not a single thing edgewise from them. So yeah, I don't think they cared for my review of this initially, but I do like it now. And no, I'm not just saying that to appeal to Creed. I don't care. So yeah, Aventus Cologne, it's one that I didn't care for in the beginning, but now I really enjoy a lot actually. It's a nice, fresh summer take on Aventus. Even though Aventus is summery to me, this one is for the 100+ degree days when it's really humid and days where I'm probably not wanting to wear a fragrance at all. I would go for this one. Orange, vetiver, birch, musk. It's kind of all you need to know about this one here. Woody, but light woods and, you know, nice creamy orange. It smells great. It's Aventus, brightened up with a little bit of Allure Homme Sport mixed in. That's what it is. Alrighty guys, there you have it. That is 10 not new fragrance releases, but they are new to my collection. So 10 of my favorite pickups that aren't new releases for this year. You guys know what I'm talking about. I will link them all down below again to discounters. Use that FragranceNet 37% off code down below to get 37% off. Make sure you take advantage of that before they take that away. Thank you so much for watching. Stay safe, stay healthy. We'll see you tomorrow with another one. Take care.